Attention, aspiring and current Medicare agents. There is some big time legislation and new rules coming down the pike that could absolutely devastate your career selling Medicare Advantage. And I want you to pay special attention because we're going to need your help by the end of this video to help at least try to stop what is seemingly coming our way by AEP 2025. I've got Mr. Bob Brisky here from Pinnacle Financial Services, who's going to talk more about the CMS proposed ruling, what its impact is, and literally how it's going to affect, I think, negatively every single Medicare Advantage agent in the nation. So, Bob, introduce yourself and take it away.
David, appreciate your time today. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I think you did a nice little sum up there of what we're seeing. First off, again, my name is Bob Brisky. I'm Vice President Marketing at Pinnacle Financial Services. And we really are, better or worse, we're an FMO. We're a national brokerage. Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplements, everything Medicare is really our primary focus. I'm also a member of the NABIP FMO Medicare Council. So those of you that are familiar with NABIP, I still say NABIP, formerly NAHU, because I think a lot of people are still catching up with the branding change there. But there's a lot going on here with the CMS final rule that's coming down the road here, David, and I think we all need to pay a lot of attention to it.
So what is this proposition? You know, I've kind of tried to hype it up a little bit, but the hype is real as far as the impact negatively it can have on agents. Give us kind of like a 1,000-foot overview of what CMS is proposing to
absolutely.
all of us, and then we're going to go into a lot more depth.
Yeah, so every year, whether you realize it or not, CMS actually comes out with a final rule of marketing. It comes out every single year. Last couple of years, they've been hitting us pretty hard with some changes, right? Not getting political, won't get into what the change in the environment the last couple of years is, but certainly if I would probably have a hard time finding somebody to tell me what the proposed rule from 2018 was, which was a little bit different of a landscape then, but. Currently, the administration, CMS, they are cracking down on a lot of things. They maybe don't look at the free markets in the same way. They're hitting us with the marketing rules. They're hitting us now with commissions. So go back a little bit. 2 years ago, they came out with, hey, we don't like all the marketing going on. Everybody remembers Joe Namath, J.J. Walker, the commercials that were out there that were really tied to the call centers, right? So CMS, took a look at that. They didn't like the complaints coming in, the marketing, and they said, okay, everybody's got to record all their calls. And us as an industry, we sort of said, well, everybody? See, the call centers were already recording all of their calls, right? So really what you mean is every individual agent selling Medicare Advantage is now has to record all of their calls. And they said, yes. Right. So we had to figure that out quickly. Right. There's an old saying, and I think it's Will Rogers, when I make a joke, it's a joke. When the government makes a joke, it's the law. So we sort of had to roll with that one a little bit. And we caught up, right? The FMO, the agent industry, we all sort of jumped in and we got that done. Last year was the TPMO, right? Third party marketing organizations. And what sort of happened there was, everybody who was involved in the selling process of Medicare Advantage was now considered a TPMO. And what that meant was every single thing you did in marketing, all your pieces, anything on social media had to be filed with CMS. So, of course, every individual agent in the industry sort of looked around and said, well, how do we do that, right? What's that process? So, again, we sort of, took that on as an FMO. We are set up to file all of that, and we do that for our agents. We file all of their pieces. We make sure they have approvals. If they've got a van and they're wrapping it, we got to make sure that's done correctly. If they got an advertisement and it's got the red, white, and blue Medicare card on it, you have to do that in a certain way, right? So there's all these rules that are out there that really an individual agent really just wouldn't be able to handle on their own. So we're really the back office support that does a lot of the compliance for that at the FMO side of things. So this year, and I'll go back a little bit, the article came out back in June, right? The Alliance for, what do they call it? The Alliance for Community Health Plans, ACHP. They put an article out in June, and they really pretty much said, hey, we're getting selected against Medicare Advantage companies, these big companies. They're giving all this money to agents. Fair market value for commissions is being thwarted, right? Where CMS is saying, hey, you can't pay more than $601 for a new to Medicare. In 2024, it's jumping to $611. The industry is getting around that by giving marketing dollars. They're giving all these support and services. So in essence, the small carriers, the regional players are getting selected against because these larger companies are giving all this money to the individual agents and brokers. And because of that, they're writing against us. Is that true? Is it not true? Regardless, they said it. We actually, as an agency, Pinnacle Financial, our chief operating officer, Angela Palo, actually did a rebuttal to that article back in July, saying, hey, this is something the industry's got to pay attention to. Nothing really happened after that. It was kind of quiet. I guess everybody was getting ready for AEP, David. And what happened is that, of course, CMS drops their proposed rule, and in it, boom, here you go. They're addressing the fair market value and the extra payments and everything else that's coming along with this proposed rule, which is really, if it comes the way we're looking at it, could be pretty close to a death blow for the industry, which we can go into it a little bit here, which really doesn't make any sense for a lot of reasons, right?
Yeah, let me jump in here so to help the audience kind of understand this. A lot of my audience also are people who are wanting to sell Medicare at some point in the future because they start with like a senior product, like final expense, and then get into it later. In Medicare, it's interesting. The economics of Medicare, if you're a broker, if you're an independent, if you're not in a call center getting paid a wage, the first year commissions, when you factor in the cost of acquiring clients, are pretty low. It's in the residual income that you earn over many years of doing this that makes this a lucrative business model. And what we've historically seen from the carriers is that they provide marketing support. They provide monies to agents who write business to help them support the costs of doing business. It's not looked at like it's some sort of backhanded payment of some sort. It really is to support the expense that agents shoulder in order to run the business model. And not to mention the FMOs, like Pinnacle and others, they finance the cost of, say, Sunfire, which is kind of the de facto standard for underwriting, finding the best plans, the tools that it takes to record the conversations, which CMS now requires. It's a lot of money. And what this proposition is doing essentially is calling for the elimination of all of this, as if it's somehow biasing agents to write a certain way or another. You want to jump in on that, Bob?
Yeah, no, you're right, spot on. Sunfire Connecture, two of the largest platforms out there. And in essence, think about Medicare Plan Finder, similar, right? So Sunfire Connecture really allows agents to compare all of the plans that are out there in the industry, allow them to take a look at putting in prescription drugs, finding doctors in networks for clients, making sure that when an independent agent is working with a specific client, that they're giving them the most appropriate plan, right? And what's interesting is that they're having these one-on-one conversations, and I always like to kind of push back when they say the best plan. People aren't getting put in the best plan. What does best plan mean? Because as an individual, you're working with a person, you're making sure their prescriptions are covered, you're making sure their doctors are in network, and then you're taking a look at other factors. Are there OTC benefits in there? Is there food benefits in there, right? Is that important? Is there dental, vision, hearing? Is there something like a silver sneaker gym membership in there? So as an independent agent, you're able to have those conversations and then pick the plan that is not only the most appropriate, but most appropriate for that individual. And you're getting feedback from that person, right? This is what's important to me. So to make a blanket comment that, hey, agents aren't putting them in the most appropriate plan, if you're not sitting across the table from that individual, how do you make that determination, right?
Right. Legislators legislating from, not personal experience, actually serving clients, just off of ideas.
And it's really important. Yeah, it's really important to remember that the majority of these agents, to your point, it's about retention, making sure they're in the best plan possible. It's only when they have that good persistency does this model make sense, right? They are building their book of business every single year. Before an independent agent actually goes out and is marketing for new people during AEP, they're making sure that their current book of business, all of those individuals that they're already getting paid on, are in the best plan for the upcoming year. So they're doing that analysis every single year because the plans change every year, right? Plans change, formularies can change, networks can change, all of these things can change. So you have to analyze your entire book of business. And then you're talking about, hey, let me see if I can build out from that, right? That's when the marketing comes into play. And when you look at the studies that are out there, every single year, it varies who is the plan that is growing in market share, right? Now, you can look at United Healthcare and Humana and the larger carriers. They of course, have a larger client base, but their footprint's larger, right? They're in almost every state, if not every state, right? If you're looking at a regional plan that's in 4 counties, you can't really compare apples to apples. But what you can compare is how much growth those carriers are having. And when you look at the growth model year over year, the larger carriers like United Healthcare may not have as much percentage growth as a regional carrier.
Right.
And what do you think the reason for that is? The plans were better in those areas for the regional carriers, and that's what the agents saw. They did what was in the best interest of the clients. They did what was right. They put them in the best plan. So the idea that smaller carriers are going to get anti-selected against just simply because they're a smaller carrier and they're somehow not giving out marketing dollars, the data doesn't support that.
Oh, we have agents that beg for the regionals or the statewides to in many cases, they don't want to sell some of these brand name companies because it's just not in the best interest of the client, and they're losing the ability to close. So yeah, I would agree with you on that premise. This idea that the small guy's getting cut out, it's not the case. I mean, these agents want it, and so let's shift gears here, because I think so the premise of this whole idea is because agents are financially incentivized, they're not providing the best plans. And we know that's subjective, whatever best means. But what is the outcome economically looking like? What is CMS saying as regards to how FMOs are going to have a changed compensation, and more specifically, how agents are going to change in their compensation?
Yeah, so let me just start by saying that right now we have the proposed rule. We're in the comment phase of this rule. So the rule itself is 486 pages. So a little bit of light reading. Anybody wants to grab that document and go through it, I've done that. It's not quite a page turner, but it's important, I think.
And Bob, real quick, just so the audience, stick around to the end, please, because we're going to show you how you can leave a comment to give your opinion on what this proposed rule is and how it's going to impact your business, so that we can all collectively try to put a stop to this, because as you're going to see here momentarily, it's going to be, if it goes not pretty. But go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we look at the comment phase, as an organization, as an industry, we look at that and we try and decipher in some ways, well, what does CMS actually mean with what they have in this document, right? And there's speculation that, when they talk about administrative fees, are they talking about, FMO overrides? Are they talking about just the agent compensation? Are they talking about marketing assistance? Right? It's not 100% clear, but as an organization and as an industry, we have to take a look at it that during the comment phase and say, well, we can't assume they're not saying this, because once the comment phase is over and they give you the rule, that's the rule, right? So we take a look at this and we say, listen, we're going to look at this sort of, glass half full, assuming, the worst in a way, hoping for the best, but that's how we tackle it. So, so what's happening is that CMS actually in the document has said, okay, for all the support that an FMO gives you, they've done some type of arbitrary calculation and said, we're going to increase fair market value payments to agents by $31 per enrollee, right? $31. So first off, they should call Connecture and Sunfire and ask what the cost of that is first off, because $31 is not going to give them access to either one of those systems if it's not provided by the agency or the FMO. It's just not going to do that. And that doesn't have any, and we talk about the regional carriers. I don't think CMS or the industry in general understands that even a lot of the smaller carriers, the FMOs are the ones that process the contracting, right?
Right.
We
Very
do
expensive.
all those services. The infrastructure is not even there. And there are some small carriers out there, regional carriers, that don't even want all the FMOs. They're not even set up to handle it. So if I want to sell a certain company as an FMO, it's not like I'd snap my fingers and that company's automatically going to give me a contract to do it. I might not even have access to do it. So $31 going to get on top of the fair market value. So 611 was the 2024 number in most states for the fair market value. Jump that up by $31. You're at 642. Here you go, Mr. Agent. Everything that the FMO gave you, now you're going to get on your own. Get your call recording system in place, handle all of your licensing, handle all of your marketing, handle all of your compliance, handle all your social media advertising, file everything with CMS on your own, get your Sunfire and Connectures in place, and that'll work out real well for you.
Yeah, and to clarify too, that's first time the Medicare Advantage commission. For the residuals, it would be half of that. So we're looking at what, 321? And without the marketing support that has been there for the agents that, write a good bit of business, that's all gone. Plus everything else that what Bob is saying. So what are we looking at? I mean, we're looking at a situation where the idea is to reduce this sort of bias, right? That's supposedly pushed from the FMO on down to the agent. But the blowback on this is that the agent's not going to make as much money, because they're not going to have the marketing support. The FMOs have to make some margin on this, right? So there's probably, my thinking is, if this were to go through, the FMO is going to have to take some kind of margin. So that means you're going to have a reduction in your pay potentially, and then also a reduction in services, right? And it makes the business model not deployable for a broker who has to buy their own leads, right? So it totally upends, if this were to pass as it stands, it totally upends the business.
Yeah, it really would make it unsustainable. Last year, half of all Medicare beneficiaries that have A and B actually have a Medicare Advantage plan right now. They're wildly popular, right? There was a study by AHIP earlier in the year that said 93% approval rating from individuals for their Medicare Advantage plan. Just think about that number. If in an election, if you win by 50.1%, you feel like you have a mandate to do whatever you want. We're talking 93%. You couldn't get 93% of people to say they like, puppies half the time, right? That's a big number. And it's important to understand that when you talk about complaints have gone up, you really, take a look at it. It was due to the call centers. There was an increase in complaints. CMS, right? Big organization, they didn't use a scalpel, right? They used a hammer, and they just said, we're going to hit everybody with new marketing rules because of these increases in complaint, which was still very much a fraction. Medicare Advantage, for the most part, being done right by independent agents out there in the marketplace. And people like it. People like it. Over 50% of individuals out there now have it. And I don't know if you saw this, David, but they just had a article come out in the Wall Street Journal, and Nikki Haley actually referenced it in the debates, that the Medicare Trust Fund would actually increase by 18 years if Medicare Advantage model was used across Medicare, right? Nothing else happens. No increases in anything else, no decreases in benefits, just by using more of the Medicare Advantage model. So you have plans that are wildly popular. You have plans that are good for taxpayers, right? You have plans that are good for the government. Why the blowback? Why the pushback? Why make it more difficult to keep doing more of the good work that's being done in the Medicare space for individuals, for the government, across the board? It just doesn't make sense in so many ways for this to go through the way it is if we're thinking at it from the worst case scenario. And again, we're hoping it doesn't happen in that way, right? Hope's not a strategy. I don't know who said that, right? I heard that at one point, hope's not a strategy. So we're going to talk about how to comment and how to do those kind of things.
Yeah. My thoughts, and this is just my opinion, Bob, not his. I think the biggest issue in this business has been the call centers, but then them being enabled by a lot of third-party offshore call centers that call on these people night and day, that are driven nuts because they get 15 to 20 calls constantly and, are being taken advantage. And I know that's not the case with all call centers, but most of the problems that we've seen stem from the call center, not the individual agent. Again, agents aren't perfect either. But to me, this again is overreach, throw the baby out with the bathwater, and the whole thing. And, we don't want to see this pass, guys. There's nothing positive that's going to come out of this. Seniors aren't going to have as much of you guys out there helping them get the optimal plan that's available. It's going to make the business model less lucrative, and less agents are going to want to do it. So Bob, any final words here before we go into what you guys at home can do to be a part of this, like I said, collective effort to stop this?
Yeah, no, I think that's where we need to go right now.
Yeah.
I think really let's talk about what are actionable items, us as an industry, as the independent agents, what can we do to make sure that our voices are heard, right? That we're not just letting this go by without actually taking some action. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a website to go to. Do you want to pull that up on your side, or do you want me to pull it up?
You want me to share my screen? Is that?
Yeah, you should be able to share it.
All right. Give me one
So
second.
while you pull this up, I'm just going to tell everybody this link is going to be in the description box below. Again, if you care about retaining the business of Medicare Advantage as it is, then we need your help with this. The website, I'll throw it out there. It's pfsinsurance.com/2025-proposed-final-rule. Again, you'll see that below. But tell us what to do on this page and what we got here.
Yeah, hopefully you can see that okay, David.
Yeah,
I have
perfect.
it up there. All right, so this is on our website. So we've created a page there that talks about what the rule is, what the impact we feel could be, and how to get in touch with your senators, your members of the House of Representatives, why that's important. We pulled some language right from the document because, again, it's a large document, 486 pages. We actually reference the page that you can find this information on there, which I think is important. And then, of course, on here, how to comment, right? This goes right to the comments section for this ruling that an independent agent can go to. You click on here, it goes right to the comments section, and then how to comment. So we think that you have to talk about your personal experience, even testimonials from your clients, right? I sit across from my individual clients. I talk to them about the plans. We go through their drugs, their benefits. We make sure that they're in the most appropriate plan and how they do their marketing, right? We can't assume, right? That's again, we don't want to assume that CMS knows how we as independent agents go about and do our business. So that's what we want to articulate in this comments section, really having our voice heard, right? How we go to market, how FMOs support the overall industry, how they make the Sunfires and Connectures available that allow them to actually have more plans available. Without Connecture and Sunfire, how's an independent agent going to compare? There was a study that came out, I saw it on markfarrow.com, that talked about every person on average has 43 different plans they can choose from in their county. So how's an independent agent going to compare the best plan, the most appropriate plan for an independent agent to do that? It's just not feasible without this type of support and software. So that's how you want to articulate in your comment section. Again, we have some best practices we put out there on how to comment right here. You can go right to the comment page on there, and it makes it very easy and straightforward. There's no limit to the amount you can comment on there. I don't know that you should go all fire and brimstone on the government, right, as part of your comment, but you really want to articulate how the industry works for you as an independent agent, what you do to make sure your clients are in the best and most appropriate plan.
Yeah, reply calmly, with logically, talk about the blowback, the issues, what you benefit from, how you still serve your clients to try to help them find the best option regardless. This stuff needs to be clarified. Remember, this is coming from the ivory tower, not from guys with street cred like you.
Don't assume, right? Don't assume they know what you do. Don't assume they know the amount of time you spend on individuals, making sure that you're doing the right thing. And again, 99% of the independent agents out there are always trying to do the right thing for their clients, right? That's the bottom line. And that's what we have to convey. And we also have to make sure that they understand how our industry works. It's not the ACA market, right? It's not the commercial market. It's not the group healthcare market. It's the Medicare market. And this is how it's different. This is important for us to make sure that we're getting our voice out there. And also, I just want to mention, David, the comment section will end January 5th. So we still have a couple of weeks to do this, right, through the holiday season, right into the beginning of New Year, but that's when it's going to end, January 5th. So get your comment in by that. It's really important that we as an industry make sure we put our best foot forward in this effort to make sure that this doesn't come down the way it's looking it's going to, right? If it hits the way it is today.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you taking time to explain this and what the terrible impact will be to the working agent. And guys, those of you out there that are writing Medicare, you got to do yourself a service and click on the comment here and leave one for everybody here. Or if you're thinking about getting into Medicare, what's your perspective when the stuff goes away and it becomes less of a business model? Less agents means less help to seniors. So keep that in mind, guys. And Bob, any final words before we wrap it up? Appreciate you being here.
No, listen, absolutely. If anybody is unsure, at the PFS Insurance on that page, you can reach out to us if you're not sure how to comment. If something's not clear, we'd be glad to help answer any questions that anybody may have on this. So just feel free to reach out and we'll help out in any way we can. This is really important for us to be heard as an industry, right? We can't have a wait and see attitude.
No, not this time. Bob, thank you.
No, thank you, David. Appreciate your time.